Now, earlier in the week, as we know, US President Donald Trump and the Russian President Vladimir Putin reached a partial ceasefire. They had a 2-hour telephone conversation. Russia would refrain from targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure. And you just suspect what that's about is Ukraine's been hitting Russian infrastructure for energy. And so Putin's probably very happy that that would be agreed to. Now, a few days later, Prime Minister Zelensky, he's told EU leaders that Russian forces have hit its energy infrastructure yet again. Have a look.
Despite Putin's words about allegedly being ready to stop the attacks, nothing has changed.
So, is this nominal ceasefire ever going to work? Joining me now, Deakin University Global Islamic Politics Chair Greg Barton. Great to see you again, Greg. Look, even if Putin can be convinced to agree to a full ceasefire, how likely is it that he'd actually keep his word?
Well, on keeping his word, Steve, we can be pretty sure, as Keir Starmer has said, we just can't trust him. That's based on track record. He has time and time again broken ceasefire agreements. And I mean, we have the recent history in Ukraine, 2014. He went back after a agreement was signed. This was, of course, not long after Ukraine voluntarily gave up its nuclear weapons. No, so that bit is very clear. What this means is that Putin responds to power, and until he meets pressure and is forced to negotiate, he won't negotiate. And even when he does negotiate, he certainly can't be trusted to keep his word. So you need to have checks and balances in place to make sure that he doesn't just take the time to rebuild strength and come back again as he's done with Ukraine.
So where's this going to go? I mean, Donald Trump wants to be able to say he's managed to secure a ceasefire and he wants to have the war end. He's spoken very emotionally, as he should, about the loss of human life on both sides, but particularly with the Ukrainians. He's prevaricated about how much aid the US will continue to give Zelensky, and he wants Europe to get more involved. I mean, where do you think this is going to all end up?
Unfortunately, we don't seem to have a quick resolution in sight. It's a war of attrition on both sides. Both the Russians and the Ukrainians are doing it tough. The Russian rates of attrition are just abysmal. It would be horrible to be a Russian conscript, even worse than fighting on the Ukrainian side, just because of the way they're treated. But that doesn't put enough pressure on Vladimir Putin to stop. So I think the hope that we had when Donald Trump came to office, that the man who nominally at least wrote the book The Art of the Deal would cut some sort of deal, who was motivated to be known as somebody who was a master negotiator, is completely failed. The Kremlin's never had a better friend in the White House than Donald Trump. Not just Vladimir Putin, but 80 years of Kremlin history. There's never been a president like this. So there's no pressure on that side, unfortunately. The pressure will have to come from Europe, and it may be that indirectly Trump has provoked Europe into sort of getting their act together and stirring things up, and that may be where the result comes.
President Trump's also, again, obviously tucked in behind Benjamin Netanyahu. He's given Israel his full backing. They've now issued what they quote is a last warning to Gazans to release those remaining hostages and remove Hamas from power after resuming their ground operations. Pretty brutal again. They got back in there and some heavy attacks on that what's left of Gaza. Israel airstrikes Tuesday. This seems to have fired up again. I mean, that ceasefire has completely collapsed, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's the way it seems, Steve. We're either on the edge of this tipping into another ongoing endless war, or this is a bit of negotiating on the part of Netanyahu. He's got Ben-Gvir, his right-wing cabinet colleague, back in the cabinet now. He's got sort of the Israeli right, the far right, on side. So he's in a strong position with his coalition. He of course, is facing has moved ahead of the domestic intelligence agency.
Oh, we're getting back.
And he's also responded to criticism from the Attorney General, who's criticised the sacking of Shin Bet, the intelligence chief. Sorry, I'm not sure what that connection's
Greg, great to speak to you. I know you're up in Indonesia. I just want to ask you very quickly, what did you make of the Chinese naval force going around Australia, those 3 naval ships?
Well, they weren't breaking any international law, but it was certainly a deliberate show of force, and it points to a time coming, perhaps as early as 2026, but probably more likely 2027, when they'll try and ramp up pressure across the Taiwan Straits. And this is, I think, to be seen in that context. They're showing the world, showing our region that they're a force to be reckoned with, and they're not easily contained. And of course, the current circumstances suit them in that respect. They're not likely to face the pressure from America, and Europe's in no position to respond. So we're stuck with this. I think we should take it to heart and recognise that we need to do more about our own defence.
Absolutely. Good on you, Greg. Thank you. Great to catch up with you.